our couple that I'm the initiator and my wife is the receiver. And so I will give her a hug in the morning. I try to do it every morning. I was like, honey, come here, we're gonna hug. And sometimes she's like, oh, I'm tired. I'm like, come here, we're gonna hug like this, right? Because I'm not expecting her to receive it in a certain way or be a certain way. I just expect her just to be her and just to receive my hug. And so we'll hug and she'll kind of like hold me back. And for me, that's enough. And I've given up this idea that she has to initiate or approach me or be a certain way. And for us, it's liberating because we stop trying to make each other be different. And she stops expecting me to stop. It's like, I'm not gonna stop being affectionate with her. That's not an option. That's not a tolerable existence for me. But instead, it's just we're comfortable being who we are and initiating in ways that we feel we want to love. I've learned to value, I put so much more weight on quality time because that's what she cares about.
Welcome back to another episode of Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hyper-sexualized times of ours. Now, everybody, okay, listen up. If you're a child and you have parents, if you are a spouse and you have a spouse, that's a funny way of putting it. At some point, you've got into arguments, said person you're in a relationship with, and you need to find a way to either get rid of them forever from your life or to overcome your limitations and reconcile and create peace in your life. The running away part, the earlier option, is a never-ending journey of running away, because once you start running, you can't stop running because your past haunts you. The skeletons in your closet will topple down on you. And the other way, facing your limitations and overcoming it, is the only way to true lasting peace in your life and especially in a marriage, okay? And we are absolutely committed at High Noon to helping couples to become radiant, blessed couples. But the only way you can do that is honestly looking at your limitations and overcoming these limitations as a team. And so Benjy and I unpack this. There are ways of ruining your marriage by trying to force your spouse to change, or there are ways of creating a thriving, radiant marriage by loving your spouse and trusting them enough to be themselves. And so we unpack that. We use a lot of personal examples, and we also talk about different people anonymously who have been through struggles. It's very helpful. So if you ever want to be married, or if you are married, this is going to be a very relevant episode. Let's get into it.
Howdy, Andrew. What's good, brother?
This mineral water is very, very good.
You're letting loose your shadow and addiction to mineral water today. Sponsored by nobody. We sponsor ourselves.
I got to pay for this out of pocket. I think it's a Russian thing. And it's got 17 minerals in there.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Going all the way. Well, today, brother, let's talk about the thing that we are going to be talking about, which will be super duper applicable and relevant to especially the men out there, because apparently we are two dudes, but it'll apply to anyone that is in marriage and figuring out this blessed marriage thing. But I want to speak directly to husbands, but it'll also be very relevant to wives as well. But
if you are a woman and you want to spy on what your husbands talk about, this might be a glimpse into that.
Apparently, Andrew, I was talking with someone who is sister, Kathy Kase, shout out to her, who follows this masculinity influencer. It's a dude, like a Christian dude. And this masculinity influencer shared the statistics on his followers, and they're 80% women that are following a guy about masculinity.
Maybe he's not as masculine as they thought he was.
That is a blow to the conscience, or to the ego, if there is one, right? Like,
yeah.
So yeah, it's true. But I just want to kind of preface with that so that we get that out of the way, that we don't know. We know we can speak from men's experience for sure. A lot of.
I love, by the way, the idea of an influencer. It's like this noble term, but you don't know what you're influencing. You just want to influence something, and usually it's like, influencers influence people's decisions to buy random crap that they don't need, like makeup or whatever. But that dude's influencing wives to somehow spy on a guy. That's weird.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, I just imagine, some dude's wife being like, "Hey, honey, I've been following this guy on masculinity. You should check him out." You know,
Can you be a little bit more like this guy? Is that okay?
or like imagine my wife saying to me, or like me telling my wife, like, "Hey, I've been checking out this woman on true femininity. Like, what do you think?"
I wonder who
Does it
the weirdest person
work
is
that way?
who listens to our podcast. Who like, I mean, weirdest as in totally doesn't fit our demographic. Like somebody like a
Yeah.
porn star who is an atheist. Like,
Yeah. Well, we do have some, according to our Spotify stats, there's a certain demographic that is non-binary, which was like 0 point something percent. I was like, oh, that's undefined genders. So
well,
they're out
just shout out to Sammy for listening to our podcast. Okay, let's get into it. So we're
there.
talking
Okay,
about
undefined.
husbands and wives.
Brother, we're going to be talking about how to get what you want in your marriage from your wife, from your spouse, through heavenly principles and true love. Aju? And so let's preface this. I received a few messages last week from disturbed husbands. I'm not going to get into details here, but they
Oh,
were
you don't want to
disturbed.
dox? You don't want to dox them? Just names, addresses,
There's a good
profiles.
chance these brothers are listening to, and we appreciate these conversations because they're definitely food for thought for us. And so, I'm not bashing on these brothers, but I understand their hearts so much so that I had the compassion to want to help them. So basically, these two brothers in particular were sending me messages, essentially saying that they're kind of on the brink of giving up in their marriage and their blessing, and kind of digging a little deeper, asking like, what's going on? What is the specific crux of the issue? Both of them were saying that there are certain things that they wish for their wife to do, and they haven't been doing it for years and years. And they have been begging, pleading, asking, requesting, demanding a list of behaviors that they want their wives to do. And I think we can all relate with certain things, things that they want their wives to say, to do, to behave like, things that are sexual in
Even
nature.
how to dress sometimes. Like, hey, do you mind
Yeah,
something other than sweatpants? I think a lot of guys kind of deal with that.
stuff
In
like
this day
that.
and age, before
Yeah.
it was like women wear dresses, men wear pants. Now, everybody's wearing just sweatsuits, just men
Yeah,
and women.
there's for sure a lot that come up when we are living in close quarters with a person that is not of
Hmm.
the same gender or same family as us. And so when I was reading this one brother in particular's list of demands, is what I called it, because a demand and a request seem very similar on the onset, except when you don't get what you want. And when you don't get what you want, you respond with negativity and contempt and judgment and anger and frustration. That's a demand. That's not a request. And you
Sure.
don't know it's a demand until you don't get what you don't get what you want. And
And
when I
then you
was
get
reading,
upset.
yeah, you get upset. There's fighting, there's arguing, there's throwing stuff. Uh, Even if you ask politely, and they were like, no, and then you respond with rage. That is not a request anymore. So I
Yeah.
I was reading this list, and I was like, first of all, I get it. I 100% have been through every like line by line every single request that this person was asking for his spouse. His spouse happens to be Japanese wife like mine was. So I understood on a cultural level that there are certain things that he wants his wife to do and express that she just doesn't have the capacity or headspace or cultural understanding to do, and they've been married for so long, yeah. And it was interesting because I had a moment of looking at this email and conversing with this brother, uh, and I went, man, this is exactly me. This is exactly what I want from my wife. But the difference is that I have accepted that she is the way she is, and I have not demanded that she change.
Mm.
Although I have in the past, but there was like a pivotal point where I just kind of accepted that I can keep trying to not accept her and then keep trying to change her. And I can do that my whole life, which most couples do, by the way, until she's dead or I'm dead. And then at that moment, I just kind of have to be like, okay, well, I didn't get what I want or I got with what I want. Either way, I can struggle my whole life to try to change her, or I can just radically accept that this is how she is. And she might or might not change. And that's not really up to me. but I can request and I keep reminding her that I like this or appreciate this, but it's different because it's not based in fear or anger or rage, but really in just love and long-term thinking. So that's the kind of preface of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So when you get married, right, Benji, you might think I'm all loving and my love is unconditional. And then within a marriage, that's when the conditions start to pop up. And you didn't even know you had them, right? Because it's more like, ooh, you do things like that? Yikes. Right? Oh, that's what you think is clean? Oh, that's what you eat, you know? Like my wife and I had this conversation that just I almost fainted because in the beginning of our marriage, she's like, "Yeah, I don't eat salads," and I was like, "What? What do you mean you don't eat salads? That's not even like a thing that people can do." She wasn't like a carnivore. She wasn't on the This is before all that stuff, and she's just like, "Yeah, no, salads are." And then I was so like, I loved salads at the time. I lived in California for like 8 years or something. You can't live in California without consuming a whole lot of salads. But just our like my expectation of what is health food and her expectation of what is health food was totally different. And I could see that I was projecting like in the past 14 years or whatever. How long we've been married? I don't even know. A long time. So 13 years we've been blessed. We've actually come more and more to the middle of having a common understanding of what is health. Because we've traveled to the East a lot and we've settled in the West a lot, and we can see the mixture of both, right? But it's like you have all of these unconscious beliefs that you believe are fact. This is how things should be done. And then your spouse doesn't do them like that. That is either a recipe for endless fighting or an opportunity for understanding, depending on how you situate yourself. Because if you look at somebody who has a different set of beliefs, you can sit there and try to convince them that they're wrong and you're right, or you could try to understand them. And that's what marriage is supposed to be. It's not full acceptance of that person's, beliefs all the time equally, but it's full acceptance that they're entitled to their own opinions and their own beliefs. And how do you navigate that when your beliefs are very different? And that's a cool project that turns into a nightmare for some people because they see it as a war. A difference of opinions equals war. And you can see that online. Like, oh, you don't believe the same thing about politics as I do? Let's hate each other permanently. That's the dumbest, most juvenile way to see the world, that everybody's supposed to think and believe like you do. Loving, accepting person is like, I wonder how they came up with this conclusion. Let's figure this out. What's going on? Yeah. So what's like I'd love to get into details, like some examples, because you're speaking very broadly about some guys like some things from some of their wives that, what is it?
I think
give you some.
A helpful way to break it down would be love languages, even though I don't agree with the idea of love languages, that there are only 5 and they're equally weighted.
Sure.
I just fundamentally disagree with that wholeheartedly, because love is not as simple as 5 buckets. And frankly, at this point, I think that they're not equal in weight in the long-term things, right? So like one is gifts, giving gifts, receiving gifts. One is words of affirmation. Thank you. I love you. You're doing a great job. That kind of thing. One is physical touch, affection, hugs, that sort of business. We have acts of service, doing the dishes, that kind of thing. And then we have quality time. I would say that, just for the sake of this conversation, when we started my marriage, I was at the very top, physical touch and words of affirmation. Okay. Turns out that, all right, not to get into cultural nuances, but turns out my wife does not like physical touch or words of affirmation. But interestingly, like you're saying, Andrew, culturally, I grew up in the West, where it is kind of it's like an unconscious belief and fact that women all are like this. They all like physical touch. They all like when you hold their hand. They all like when you say, I love you. They all like when you buy them flowers. They all are like this cookie cutter set of expectations, right? which is how I grew up. That's just how I understood things in the world. And I don't have sisters. Yeah. So,
Well,
lo and behold, when I was blessed with her, with Hitue, I mean, the first kind of argument we had really was that I wanted to hold her hand after the blessing. And I was like, this is a reasonable thing to do after you get blessed, is you hold hands, And she very politely, I'll add, was like, I don't want to do that. I'm not ready for that. She's like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I was like, totally blown away, because this is totally shattering all of my expectations of what a woman is supposed to, keyword, supposed to be. And so from then on out, it was specifically for physical touch. It was an endless battle, a war zone of me saying, but I'm right. But I'm right. I need physical touch. And you're my wife. This is expected, but I'm right. And her whole thing was that she's deathly allergic to the idea of she has to do something because she's supposed to. And so it wasn't necessarily that she hated physical touch, but it was how forceful I was being and how egotistical I was being about, this is my right as a man to be physically affectionate with you through sex, through holding hands, through hugs. And so I was forcing out on her. And what, like, honestly, like, if I reflect now, what woman would want to be the recipient of that kind of forceful love? Is that it's completely based in ego of I'm right and you're wrong. That's what ego is. It's just belief that no matter what, objectively, I am absolutely right and you're wrong about this, and therefore I should win, right? And so she just was repelling that until there was a point where I kind of saw down the road that either I have to change or she has to change, because we can struggle our whole lives just back and forth like this and bicker about it all the time, and me just demanding I get what I want and I'm unhappy, or I just accept that this is how she is. And inadvertently, interestingly, she became more receptive to my approaches towards her, my sexual approaches, my physical approaches. When I want to give her a hug, she's not the one that initiates. And that's kind of what I wanted. There's a lot of guys that really want their wife to be the initiators, but sometimes wives are just not the initiators. And they'll kind of pester their wives and say, please, like, I wish you would initiate sex. I wish you would. But I have accepted in our situation.
Hey, if you happen to be a single person that wants to prepare well for marriage, for the matching, for the blessing, then my friend, we actually have a program just for you. It's completely free. You can join the core program at highnoon.org. We're going to take you through the stages to figure out, what does it mean to be a marriageable person? What does it mean to be ready? How do you actually prepare for marriage and the blessing? Check it out at highnoon.org. Join us in the program called Core. All right, see you there.
God's will in the world, I think. And he was just scolding them, like, you guys completely don't understand the idea of Cain and Abel, right? It is not master-servant. And so in your relationship, the more that you act like a master, like, you better do this for me, the more that you are going to lose the willful act of your spouse loving you because they want to. And you see this in older couples, right, Benji? Like, maybe one is still in the marriage completely out of duty. There's no love in their heart, but they're still in the marriage. I was talking to this one lady who said she called that internal divorce. That's when a couple is internally living a separate life. They're in their own worlds. Maybe they even like sleep in different beds or whatever, but they're dutifully in a marriage together. That is a disaster. That is not the purpose of marriage, right? And that comes from years and years of two people demanding that you, like, imagine how stupid it is to see two people standing on either side of a room for years being like, no, you come to this side of the room. And the other person's like, no, you come to this side of the room. And then they're just yelling at each other for years. It's like, it's a form of insanity. Imagine spirit world, just two people on other ends of a football field yelling at each other all day, every day, like, you better come here. No, you terrible person, you come here. And like, that's the energy of forcing your spouse to be more like how you want them to be, versus the opposite, two people starting out on the other side of the football field, slowly through the course of their lives, walking closer and closer until they meet at the center. That's true love, right? And my wife, she had a workshop back in the day, this is like 20 years ago, and she said that dating starts out really hot and really powerful, and like an explosion, like a planet or something explodes, and then you want to be super far away from that person because you start out like with just raw emotions, but then you end up hating each other. And so you start out close and then end up far. But he said, the blessing, this guy said, I don't know who it was, but he said, the blessing is like people coming from totally different worlds, like the other end of a soccer field or a football field, and slowly, genuinely, and willfully taking one step. Maybe every year you're just taking one step closer towards each other, but that's a big step. Because on behalf of your ancestors and your cultures, you're coming closer to each other until you warmly embrace in the center. And that's when two become one. That's the essence of Chanoguk, right?
Yeah.
But that's more like every step closer is so painful, right, Benji? Like to get to a place of misunderstanding to understanding is just this whirlwind of accusation and working through your pettiness and like how much of a baby you can be and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a interesting on that point, like people pointing at each other across the field, across the room is like a couple that's just facing each other. Like the image that came to mind is like a couple that's facing each other and they're just pointing out all the flaws in each other's face. It's like, you got wrinkles in your face.
Mm-hmm.
No, you got wrinkles in your face. You got food on your cheek. No, you have food in your cheek. And this endless back and forth. And, case in point, this brother that reached out to me, I actually spoke with his wife as well, separately. And it turns out she's essentially saying the same things about her husband. So they're saying the same things towards each other, about each other. And it feels like they're just two individuals facing each other, pointing out each other's flaws.
Yeah.
Where in reality, what we're asking people to do is just like, all you have to do is like turn a little bit and face a mirror together. And that's the moment that couples break through, is they stop being separate teams, but become one team. Yep. And they can identify like, oh, we both have crap. We both have wrinkles in our face. We both have flaws. We're flawless. We're not flawless. And an example would be like, if a couple is going through porn addiction, is brought into the marriage. And because this happens frequently in our Hainan world, is that the moment that the couple can actually rise above porn and the porn stop being the issue is the moment that they see each other as a team and tackle it together instead of accusing each other. Because both sides can be very accusatory. It's like, you should do this more. How could you do this to me? How could you do that to me? And instead look together and be like, okay, how do we work together? Let's look in the mirror together, figure this out together. And that's usually the moment that they break through and actually have some success in their relationship, but also with the addiction. So I think that it's like, it's ego. Like the word that comes to mind is ego. Is this feeling of like, but I'm right. And I freaking get it, man. Like we were talking about this earlier, Andrew. Like I get it. We're
talking about butts. Come on, let's
yes.
Come on.
Double T. We get the feeling of like, but I'm right. I know I'm right. And I always felt that. And I always made these arguments to my wife, like objectively, I'm right. Like I need this. I need this. But to what extent am I willing to be right over just be loving and just accepting? And when we say accepting, I know that because people are smart, they will say, well, we shouldn't just accept. And I would say that there's a difference between acceptance and tolerance. What you described as the couple, the internally divorced couple, that is tolerance. That is giving up. That is just tolerating an intolerable existence of just accepting, feeling like you're accepting things, but you're not, because your requests are not requests anymore, they're demands. And if I don't get what I want, I'm going to separate myself. I'm going to isolate myself. I'm going to go in my room. I'm going to give up. That's tolerance. We're not asking people to tolerate their relationship, their blessing. Acceptance is, the only way I can describe it is the relationship between a parent and child. A parent feels towards a child simultaneously absolute acceptance, if they're a good parent and they have a good relationship, absolute acceptance and absolute encouragement and empowerment. It's like, I believe you can change. I believe you can be better. And I unconditionally love you as you are on the path you are. And couples can do that too. Couples can do that. They 100% can. It's like, you are who you are. That's cool. That's funny. I'll tell you about Hito and my wife. She's all of those things that I listed, physical touch, affirmations, all those things, I can tell you with confidence, I have retroactively turned them into things I love about her, interestingly. And I noticed this recently, is that every single one, that she's not adventurous, for example. I was thinking about that recently. Like, she's not adventurous. She's not one to, want to do road trips or travel the world or do adventurous things.
Yeah, you said her love language is sitting on a chair and staring at clouds, right?
Yes,
Stuff
clouds
like
in the
that.
world. That's what she
She's
loves
got a
to do.
grandma spirit.
She loves that. She loves when I wake up early with her and have like some coffee, like that kind of stuff. She loves. She got that grandma vibe. But as a man, I was previously like, I wish she was adventurous. I wish she would do all this stuff, like comparing to other women, other wives who like
Yeah.
to do road trips and stuff. All this comparison. But here's the thing: if she was like that, then she wouldn't be everything I love about her right now. And so she wouldn't be the caring, stay-at-home mother that is perfectly happy to just sit all day in the kitchen and look out the window. That's like, she's happy. That's her happy place. And if she was this like go-getting woman that wants to like climb the corporate ladder and all that stuff, she wouldn't be this person that I appreciate that she is now. And so every single point I can tell you confidently, I have turned into, how is it that she's not physically affectionate to me, into a positive, because I value her touch so much more. It's not cheap to me. When we do get to hold hands, when we do get to make love, it's like, I've worked for that. I've worked so hard for that. It's not given away willy-nilly. And I appreciate her words of affirmation when she does say kind things about me or to me. It means the world to me. So much more than if she just right out of the gate, when we were blessed, like, oh, Benji, you're so amazing. I love my husband. He's the greatest man in the world. You're such a great husband. You're going to be such an amazing father. You're such a good father. Like all that stuff. Which
It's helpful. If you do that to your husband, there's a chance that they might need that, right? But Benji doesn't need that. I mean, that's an important clarification. We're not mocking that, because that is a part of some couples' necessary kind of healthy communications, right? Is like validation and stuff like that. But Benji is tempted by ego, and so that's why he doesn't need that as much.
I don't know. I question. Well, to be honest, Andrew, I do question a lot of times people that are over the top of compliments. I do, because I understand.
Sure, but some people just, like you and I are talkers, right? And I'm very quick from feeling to speaking. And so I will say, like, I do that to people. I hype people up all the time, and they're like, why are you saying this stuff? And so anyway, I think it's not for us to judge is the point, and whether we want to make a case for that later. But I think more, this is a personal thing, that Heatway doesn't do that for you and it's helpful for you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about me personally.
Yeah.
But I'm also noting the fact that I think that we should be 100% honest with what we want. Upfront, honest, like that's part of it. Like, I haven't given up on asking my wife to do things or be certain ways, but at the same time, we can simultaneously accept that, like, this is where we are right now, and it's not worth comparing. It's not worth getting upset about. It's just like, this is how we are, and I'll accept that things won't change. And interestingly, things do tend to change when acceptance is part of the ingredients.
Gratitude. So when you are in the energy, and it's very much a spiritual realm, and you can feel it when you're in it so clearly, when you are comparing and when you're judging your spouse, or like, let's say you're single. Let's say you've survived this far on the podcast and you're single. This is also how you feel about your parents or yourself too, right? When you're in the energy and the spirit of comparison, judgment, wishing that things were different, it is such a draining energy that consumes you. You become obsessed, and you're left feeling further away from who you want to be. And if you are married, you start to feel like your marriage is dying. I know so many people that are in this situation, and every marriage reaches a point, at some point, where you think this is the end, right? Like, is this the end? And it could be, maybe it's not as extreme as, is this the end of our marriage? But it could be, for some people, is this the end of the fun times? And you start to become very nostalgic. And like, people say, like, oh, remember when we were young and in love? Like, you could be a lot of times at any stage and in love, if you're completely kind of working on yourself and revitalizing yourself, but there's a clear energy that you can feed and grow, which is the energy of wanting things to be different in a negative way, out of a negative, like things aren't good enough. It's a very different energy than wanting things to be better out of a healthy desire to want to grow and to evolve. And that energy is focused on gratitude and kind of like uplifting sentiment and the desire to resolve rather than to fix and control. I've been working on that with one of my sons, this idea, the more that you desire control, that's your ego projecting fear. It's like, I can't handle you being the way you are, so I need you to be the way that I want you to be so that I can fit you into my small mind and my small heart, right? Yeah. Instead of expanding your mind, which is scary because you have to give something up. Because that's the thing, when you demand somebody, so let's go back to this like room, this giant room. When you demand you come to my side of the room, it's what people do with God all the time. It's like, you're not answering my prayers the way that I want you to, right? It's like it's forcing the world to fit into your little brain or your little heart, and that you'll never be happy, right? Rather than slowly expanding your mind to appreciate life and the people in it for what they are, and slowly expanding your heart to embrace them for where they're at. And that's the actual only true path towards reconciliation. Because for some people, they do reach the place, and I was in this place very clearly, I remember it, and I've talked about this before, where I was at the end of my marriage. Like, I was done. I was like, I can't physically do this anymore. We're stuck. And it was true. We were absolutely stuck. But the way that the Western world in particular tells the story is, if your marriage is stuck, then it's reached its conclusion. You must leave the marriage, right? Rather than what was true in my case and is true of true love, like the real love, which is, we are stuck. We need to leave this phase of our marriage, which means that we have to level up. We need to update ourselves, our thinking and our feeling about each other. And that's how we got out of that mess, is we were just stuck in this loop. It's not like people are like, oh, my marriage is broken. No, you are broken within your marriage. You have a dysfunctional situation that needs to be repaired and restored. And that can be the case for anybody, right? Nobody is irredeemable. No marriage is irredeemable. But it requires you to resist the temptation to want to change things to be your way. And you have to go to this humble place beyond the ego that allows you to just learn how to be grateful for what is. It's so hard. Because when you're not happy, to be grateful is really hard. Or when you're really angry, or when you're really resentful, it's so hard to be genuinely grateful. But it's a skill. It's not binary. Just like everything, like all of our virtues that we teach about, it's not this inherent gift that some people receive is like, I'm always just grateful. No, it's like people just practice it and it's easier for them, and other people are out of practice, so it's harder for them. But I swear to God, gratitude is the superpower that we all have that we never use, because we're comparing or we're wishing and praying for something else rather than being honestly just grateful. Thank you for my spouse. Even if you're so fighting, it's like, wow, my spouse is really showing me my anger right now. Thank you for that, because that's in me, and they're showing it in me. And an immature person says, I hate you, you're blah, 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 blah. No, I love you because you're showing me that I'm still really immature. That's like the mature approach, is like, wow, I'm super angry because I don't know, like for me, one day I came home and a lot of my clothes were gone. I was like, hey, honey, where's that sweater I love? She's like, oh, you didn't like that. I was like, what? That was my favorite. It was this cardigan. I was like, I love that thing. She's like, oh, I gave it away. I was like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Right? And we still joke about it, but it's like in those moments, you're like, wow, I really reacted to a cardigan, to a piece of, at that time I didn't have a lot of money. So synthetic material, some cheap $30 sweater in that moment was more important than my wife's heart. I still have some maturing to do.
Yeah.
And reflection and a life of faith is the only thing that allows you to like access emotions beyond the immediate reaction. Right? If you're not committed to like a blessing or a blessed life, then you're just like, okay, this is the way things are. She's like that, then I don't like this. Then now we're fighting. But if you're committed to the blessing, it's like, okay, this is where we're at. Where do we want to be? What did we say when we were going to get blessed? Oh yeah, that we're committed to true love. Then let's keep on going higher. Let's work on this. Let's get beyond these emotions. And that's how you have a life of perpetually growing and experiencing newness with your spouse. And that's when love feels fresh and fresh and fresh. This just happened. I don't know. Oh, when we started the tour, we went to the Bay Area first, and then we went back to our families for like a week before we then went touring for 3 weeks. And in that week, I was like obsessed with my wife, and I was totally crushing out on her, and I couldn't stop touching her all day, every day, just like hugging her, and like I was totally in love. And that was like for a few weeks, and then now it's gone, and we're back to kind of like we love each other and we still hug and all that, but I'm not like yearning. I don't need her because it's just like, it comes and it goes. We fell in love again. We had some breakthrough, and then okay, no problem. Yeah. It's fun. It's how you fall in love with the same person 1,000 times instead of seeking love 1,000 times from different people because you're stuck at a certain realm.
Yeah. It's also how the most epic physical relationships unfold as well. It's based on internally being in love, deeply in love with the same person, because we have this misbelief in culture and society that the people that are, physically most satisfied or sexually most satisfied are the ones that are having the most sex, right? Like
promiscuous
flings. Yeah. But it's actually, according to experts in science, is that the best physical relationships and experiences are with the people that you have the deepest intimacy and trust and vulnerability with. Yeah. And so it really, the science does back up the importance of a committed relationship for life for that. And that's on the basis of just investing over and over, falling in love over and over again. And that's where the deepest physical, spiritual, and internal intimacy is possible. And I just had that like realization recently where I was like, oh, like we've got it so backwards culturally, like societally speaking, we got it backwards. We assume that the people that are having the best physical relationships are the ones that are just, sleeping around and whatnot. But no, they're not. It's married couples that are not internally divorced, but internally connected, deeply connected, and over again, investing in that. Yeah.
Yeah. Think about it. I mean, the hookup culture is about two people kind of practicing what they've learned from other people or what they've learned from porn on each other. So it's like playing make-believe. And so it's fun and exciting in the moment, but your hearts aren't having sex, right? Your hearts aren't making love. And when you're with somebody and you've overcome a lot together, it's like you're transcendent because you're like, it's a celebration. When you make love, it's a celebration of all of the hard work that you've invested in. And it's the difference between, being somebody who gets a new job all the time and somebody who's built a business from the ground up. Like we can look at Uncle Dave and Mitsue as a couple that have built an empire that now gives to so many people because it fuels, High Noon, but it's also helped so many second generation in so many different ways. It's like they built this empire, which is like, so different from like Uncle Dave hustling and just doing a bunch of random stuff. No, he's invested in something that is now paying dividends, and making such a huge difference in so many different ways. It started out with just selling crabs from the back of a truck. And now it's like, feeding people. Think about that. It's starting to feed just, I don't know, some people some crab in Westport, Washington. And now it's spiritually feeding people through High Noon around the world. How amazing is that? And that's your marriage too. Your marriage when you invest in it and you overcome your limitations, becomes something that feeds your community, feeds the world. When my wife and I go around the world now, since we've overcome so many of our, limitations and our fights, we can actually be there to like help people. Like we're helping our family out here quite a bit, right? And we're trying to help the community out here. There's an amazing church that's being revived out here in Mongolia. But when if you're fighting, you don't have the bandwidth to really invest in other people. You don't. Yeah. But the more that you do invest in your marriage into overcoming your limitations and doing it for the sake of being on the same team, then your team can start really doing some amazing stuff. And that's when life becomes just joyful, it's deeply fulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah, because then it stops being about how you're wrong and you need to change. Then it's just like fun. Everything becomes fun, that we're different, and that becomes fun. I think there's a pivotal point in marriages where the things that we started off believing or feeling are cute eventually turn into annoying, and then it eventually becomes funny. It's just like,
yeah.
But a lot of the things that people start off feeling, oh, it's so cute how he does that, or she likes this.
That's quirky.
And then it's, I hate this about you. And then it's, oh, that's just funny. That's how you like, real example is natto. It's like my wife, I thought it was cute in the beginning. She loves natto. And then it was just like, this is disgusting and it's expensive. Why do you need natto all the time? You just live in America, right? It's like annoyed. And now I just think it's funny. It's just funny that she likes natto. That's how Japanese she is. She's got to find her natto fix.
Yeah. So everybody, like, at the end of the day, this is the blessing. I was talking to one of our chapter leaders about like how important it is to do annoying and mundane things together as a couple, because those are the challenges that if you skip, you're not building a life together, right? So like filling out really complicated forms together, like immigration papers or mortgages or anything, are so cumbersome. But at the same time, it's like doing these things solidifies the fact that you are a team and creates a trust, an implicit trust that you cannot fake or skip ahead to. It's like sewing or knitting a scarf, like line by line, decision by decision. And so when you're at an impasse, a lot of people panic and feel like, oh, our marriage is falling apart. There's no such thing as a marriage falling apart if you don't want it to. It just means that you're in a challenging phase of your marriage. And there's a good chance that you need outside perspectives because you guys are probably just doing this destructive loop. You're stuck in a cycle. So whether it's family, somebody from your faith community, or like a professional, if it's really tough, to give you perspective, then those liabilities become assets real quick, honestly speaking. Not generically, and especially not to throw this away in any way. Like when you realize that your differences are your superpowers. For example, genetically speaking, a child is strongest if the parents' gene pools are really far apart from each other, right? So this is true of animals like dogs. Mutts are much healthier than purebreds just because the gene pool is larger, and so God likes to play with more ingredients, right? But think about a marriage too. The more that you guys have differences and work through those differences, the stronger it is, that love that you have, because you worked for that love. Like the first part of marriage, like the euphoria, the falling in love, that's your gift. That's just like it's like God, like, okay, this one's on me, right? These nice feelings you get. But then anything after that is earned. And that's your legacy. That's like, we built this love together through a lot of difficult conversations, through a lot of me overcoming my limitations. And you look yourself in the eye and say, honey, we built this together. And it's a tremendous feeling. We overcame so much, right? And that's why it's important to summon your good ancestors, because you have people in your past that overcame things much harder than you could ever understand. And they could be right there. They're in your blood. I can't say this. You can look up epigenetics. There's tons of studies to show that, like you can summon them by upregulating them. It's called upregulating all of your virtuous ancestors. That means what you're focusing on, the music you listen to, the things you believe in, all this is bringing out the DNA of a virtuous person. And you become that because it's in you. And also you can bring up all the whiners, the schemers, the complainers, the sketchy people in your lineage. They're in abundance too. You have murderers and rapists. You have the scum of the earth in your blood, in you, that you can summon at any time. You can conjure them at any time. Good luck.
Specifically. You listen.
No, me.
Not you, Andrew.
No, me. Definitely me. Because if you have any sense of who your lineage is, you always hear about that uncle. You know, you always hear.
Some guy's gonna be like, take this as the word of God, and be like, but Andrew Hyung said, I have evil murders in my ancestry.
We all do. It's impossible that you don't. Like the fact that your lineage, you come from thousands of generations with, you know, somebody in your family was a piece of trash, and they're in your blood, and you can restore them by acknowledging that that's in you, but then to liberate them by doing the stuff that you should be doing. And so all I'm saying is, like, in those moments, let's say your wife is doing the exact thing that you just despise. That's the moment when you can have a conversation with all of your worst ancestors and be like, hey guys, let's get her. Let's attack her with insults. Let's pressure her. Let's hurt her feelings so that we can feel temporary joy, but then all lose together. Or you can say, hey guys, not now. I don't have time for this. You guys watch how to do it. Learn from this. And then you summon your good ancestors and be like, look, honey, here's how I'm feeling and I'd like to work through it. Let's work on this. And this is true for husbands, for wives, and for parents and for children, because the same stuff exists between parents and children, right? So, but we're just talking because we have a heart for, I've noticed there's a trend of a lot of people really being tempted by divorce because our culture is really trying to justify casual love as a legitimate form of love, while simultaneously producing the most depressed and anxious generation in known history since we've been measuring this stuff. So good luck with that. So we cannot take this stuff lightly. It's going to define us. It's nice. The idea of like giving your kids some sort of inheritance, like, oh man, I wish I just had bought 20 Bitcoin. We know people, you and I know people who bought Bitcoin in 2016 for, pennies on the dollar. And it's like, I know a lot of people, if they had a time machine, it's like they go back to 2013 or 2016 and just buy just tons of Bitcoin. Cause then my generations would be rich. And like, okay, but if you don't do the other stuff actually of giving them a legacy of real love, that money's going to destroy them and the world around them because they're going to be terrible people. So it's much more important to focus on building a legacy of love than a legacy of external riches, because there's plenty of people like George Lucas who are like, they didn't give he was a billionaire and he's like, I'm not giving my kids this. It's going to destroy them. I'm going to give all this money away to charity and I'll let them build their own thing. And that's beautiful. So whatever. Externally, it's not a comment on whether wealth is important or not. It's just what's clearly more important is the internal stuff. And that's something we can absolutely control if you are blessed by loving your spouse, if you're single, by turning into a good future spouse.
Yeah, thank you. I like the reminder on gratitude. That's my takeaway from this episode. I really resonate with what you said, that gratitude can be experienced by anyone, anywhere, anytime. It's the secret weapon. It really is. And I definitely have in the past downplayed gratitude a lot because it always felt very conditional, based on external circumstances. It's like, oh, because I have this, because the weather is nice, because I am in this situation, because I have this, because I am in this place, therefore I'm gratitude. It's conditional.
Sure.
But I was wrong, because I think there's fundamentally a different definition of unconditional gratitude that I've learned about, which is more gratitude for life. It's more gratitude for existence. Or like what you're saying, it's gratitude for the unpleasant things that we're experiencing. It's like, how can I turn whatever's happening into a form of, this is beautiful, this is awesome, this is exactly what I need.
Yep.
And And I really have felt in
And
my
it's
personal
hard.
life,
It's
it's
super
hard,
hard.
but it's possible. And I
It's
felt
absolutely possible.
in my life that gratitude has been the gateway to experiencing God, because
Absolutely.
it's like it's impossible to not feel God or some kind of existence that is giving to me, because the premise of gratitude is that you're receiving something from
Yeah.
where? From something, from somebody, ultimately from God. And so I've always used gratitude, or tried to use gratitude, as a form of like, well, I'm grateful for my wife because of XYZ. And it helps me experience God is kind of weaving in his hands into our lives in ways that I could never have imagined if I was just obsessed with being right and having my way and my marriage look how I want it to look. Then it would have
Yeah.
been a very different situation that I probably would have been very unhappy with in the end.
Yeah. You'd be immature, that's for sure. That's what growing into maturity feels like. It's often painful because it means acknowledging and pushing past your limitations, right? And so this is like, I'm still actively doing this. Like, for an example, we've been really good, my wife and I, just in terms of like, we've been flowing really well for a while now, like a couple years. But we still have rifts. It's healthy, right? And it's also when your little kid inside of you pops up. And like 2 days ago, we ended with a the day ended poorly. And in the past, I would just be like, use that as ammunition to stew in my own juices and just make something out of nothing, right? But instead, I have this tradition I do right before bed, and I hold my rock of gratitude, and I was in bed and I was feeling frustrated and angry, but I was conjuring feelings of gratitude because I was like, this is it. And then, so that was 2 days ago. And then yesterday was a phenomenal day. And my wife and I had we were laughing about the day before and all that. We healed it, less than 24 hours, actually less than 7 hours. We went from fighting to the opposite of fighting, what I'm saying? But it was something that was not forced at all. It was just like, if I held on to my limitations, then she has no space to connect with me. If I let them go, she can then embrace me and I can embrace her, because my hands aren't full with rage and anger and resentment. So it's still something that I'm actively doing, and watching. The benefits of gratitude are endless. The pain and suffering of judgment and resentment and blame are no bounds, right? There's like, you see somebody like Hitler and Stalin. I studied Joseph Stalin's life. I wrote a sermon about it. I still remember it. This was over 10 years ago. I still remember so many details of that sermon. Joseph Stalin was a cute little kid who was beaten by his dad, then beaten by his mom, and then beaten by the nun at his school, then heartbroken by a girl. And like, he was slowly turned into a monster, right? He was just a little kid at some point, though, not filled with nothing but potential. And he turned anger and resentment into an empire where he killed more people than Hitler, right? He was a brutal, brutal dictator. And so obviously, I don't think anybody listening to this has that potential of turning into a monster at that level, but we can become a dictator to our spouse or our friends or even to ourselves if we hold on to resentment. And if you can't hold out your hand. Just picture you only have one hand that can hold an emotion, one emotion at a time. You cannot hold resentment or anger or judgment at the same time as grace and gratitude and love. So it's one or the other. And so you have to lose your grip and let resentment, these negative things, slip through your fingers like sand, so that you can fit in other things like gratitude. It's the only way. You can't do both at once. So I'm working on that with my kids. They're like, okay, do you want to be angry now? Yeah, okay, just be angry for a bit, and then we'll talk about it when you don't want to be angry anymore. And then when inevitably they always are like, okay, I'm ready to not be angry. Okay, so what do you want to be? Like, what do you want to be now? You want to be happy? Let's work on that. How do we do that? And we need to do that with ourselves. Like, when we look at how we're talking to our family, like, do I want to be like this? No. Okay. How do I let this go? Okay. Now what do I want to be? What do I want to be? It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it is simple. That's life unfolding one decision at a time, one moment at a time.
Hmm.
Very simple.
So I think this horse is dead. I think we've beaten it. So let's say thank you, everybody, for listening. And also, if you need anything, like encouraging words, if you need us to help fix your tire and we're in a location near you, whatever you need, just give us a holler, okay? Benjy at highnoon.org, Andrew at highnoon.org.
Mm-hmm.
Reach out to us. Or any of the staff. We're all listed on the website. Don't struggle alone. It's infuriating to hear how common that is. That couples, you as an individual and as a couple, it's very easy to get into trouble alone, and it's impossible to get out of trouble without help from somebody on the outside. So ask for help. Friends, family, us, anybody. There are people who care about you and your marriage. Peace.
Bye.
Hey, did you know that our team wants to do more events? Well, if you want to bring the High Noon message to your community or group, then let us know and we'll try to work something out. There's a simple application that you can fill out right now at highnoon.org/invite, and one of our team members will get back to you to see what's possible. That's highnoon.org/invite. All right, see you in the next episode.